Welcome to the Transnet podcast. My name is Zimasa Vabaza and we are live from SAPEX conference in Cape Town, Century City. And today we are unpacking the different aspects of Transnet's supply chain strategy. SAPEX is the South African Production and Inventory Control Society, and the broader message for this conference is forward-thinking supply chains. We've got to think forward. Today, I've got the Group Chief Procurement Officer for Transnet, Mr. Nemukula, and we're going to be speaking about simplifying processes, supply chain processes, and increasing the stability of the supply chain and procurement. Mr. Vuletsani, how are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing far much better than yesterday.
And we've always just got to keep getting better and better.
Definitely.
I want to jump straight into this conversation. What is the current procurement strategy at Transnet?
Yeah, the strategy that we have adopted at Transnet it emanated from some of the challenges that we've picked up, in the past few years. As you may be aware, we had, challenges related to state capture. And we had challenges that, emanated from state capture, that are affecting the operation in terms of the issue regarding the availability of spares. So part of the strategy that we have adopted at the moment, we are working with the original equipment manufacturers. And over and above that, the issues in terms of the speed or the agility or the speed of delivery, we basically trying to look at how do we improve the process by ensuring that we digitize the processes of procurement from back to back, to make sure that we reduce the interaction of people and make sure that at least going forward we are utilizing the systems more to make sure that at least we provide the services to the business.
Wow. So you're looking into the future, you're seeing what future technologies can assist procurement to function better, but also to eliminate those human errors and the possibility for nefarious actors.
Definitely. Part of what we're looking at the moment is to make sure that at least our process of procurement, they are clear in such a way that we reduce the irregularities, or the irregular procurement expenditure as a result of non-conformance in terms of regulations. So, part of what we're looking at is to make sure that at least we standardize the processes, we streamline them, and make sure that the process that was done by human beings, is going to be done digitally. And by that, we reduce all the interaction with human beings. And when we reduce the interaction with human beings, the likelihood of you making errors are quite slim, and over and above that, you are able to move with speed, and there is consistency as well.
What are the current challenges that procurement is faced with at Transnet?
Well, look, the biggest challenge that we have at the moment, if you talk to the group chief executive or you talk to any chief executive of operating division, they will tell you that, procurement is the weakest link, in the whole value chain at Transnet. There's a complaint that, we are not agile, we are not moving fast enough. And over and above that, we've got quite a lot of tenders that we get to a position where we don't award them. And non-awards, they are very, very much problematic from the point of view that, one, when you don't award the tender, you have to start the process. And on average, there are certain ODs where, they take around about, 2 to 3 months to finish a tender. So if the tender is cancelled at the end, then it means that you have got around about 6 months that you have wasted in the system. And over and above that, it's not only the 6 months that is a problem for me. It's the fact that the tender documents of the bidders, are available, and you create a market within Transnet where people start to say, if you want to participate in this tender, I can be able to give you the tender documents from someone. So that on its own is a problem. And the second issue that we have at the moment is the issue, which we spoke about earlier on, the issue of corruption. Corruption is real, in the sense that you would find that people in procurement, they connive with the end users, and they connive in certain instances with the suppliers. And this is really one area that we need to deal with, because for every corruption there's a corruptor and a corruptee. And the issue is that one of the things that we are looking at now is to try to break that chain, to make sure that the corruptee is not able to get to the corruptor. And immediately when you are able to do that, then we have resolved one of the problems that we have in supply chain management.
So let's talk about this association, while we're still on corruption, this association of the word procurement and tenders with corruption. I think it's so important to demystify for people this, because it's become something that's quite endemic in culture, in small business and SME culture, that when somebody thinks procurement, they think and tenders, they think there must have been corruption. So how do we change that culture?
Yeah, that narrative, it will be very easy, to get to a position where one would say, this is really, you decouple that, but it's difficult to get to a position where you get to a point that people start to look at procurement and tenders and get to a position where they don't see corruption. One of the things that we are looking at the moment, we are looking at digitization of the supply chain environment from back to back. And doing that is not easy, but it's necessary us. It's needed, and it's necessary for us to be able to do that. There are other interventions that we put in place, as an organization, in terms of making sure that each and every person that works in supply chain management is vetted accordingly. And we need, all men and women that work within in our environment that are within level A and C. They've gone through the vetting process, and now we are dealing with the other levels from level D and below. And that on its own, despite the fact that it's helping to deter, the corruption, but it's not really working on its own. We need to make sure that at least we put in certain processes.
The system must be tight.
Yeah, and systems, so that at least we can be able to detect corruption before it happens.
Yes.
80% of the times now, when we talk about what happened during state capture and what is happening at Transnet today, it happens when you already have awarded the contract to a service provider.
Yes.
So what we need to do, we need to get to a position where we are able to capture the corruption before it happens, and then we stop it. And if we are able to do that, we are getting to a position where we are winning as the supply chain function. At Transnet, and I'm not only looking at it at Transnet, because the corruption does not only take place within Transnet as a state-owned company. The other the corruptors, they are part of the private companies that are coming to provide this lucrative, opportunity for our employees.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I want to. I'm getting a better understanding, and it's important that even for our listeners and for our viewers, that they get a better understanding of what's happening inside and how things are changing for the better. I want to look at systems still being operated by humans, human error, and how are we looking to minimize that human error within the procurement process?
Yeah, look, this is really the part of what we're looking at is the full digitization of procurement and automation of procurement from back to back. To this end, what we've done, we put in a solution that is very, very effective, despite the fact that it was a solution that we put in as an interim process during COVID-19, when we were not in a position where people can be able to submit their tenders manually. So what we did, we put in a system called the e-tender solution or e-tender submission. It's a very simple solution where the tenders are advertising that platform, and you go and register into that platform so that at least you can register your interest and you upload the document that you need to fill in and you complete them. And you download them, and then you are able to submit electronically. The advantage that we have there is the fact that all your tenders now, you don't necessarily have to worry about closing them at 10 o'clock in the morning.
The box
and the tender box is
that box.
And over and above that, the issue of people will say that, look, I was a minute late.
Yes.
But unfortunately, in terms of our regulations, when you are a minute late because of the accident, unfortunately, we won't accept your tender. Whereas right now, what we have, we've got this solution that is quite brilliant from the point of view that it keeps record in terms of who submitted their bids, who submitted their bids late, and when the bids were late, they would not go into the box or into the platform that you can be able to download. Over and above that, one area that is really helping us with, in the past, the irregularities of procurement emanated from the physical tender documents.
The paper.
Exactly, the paper that was submitted via the tender box. You would find that, once the tender closes, the team that is stamping the tender documents, they will tell you that they can only be able to do that after 2 weeks. And within those 2 weeks, every night, people are changing their documents, and other people that could win the bid, they are
disqualified.
Their BE certificate, you find that it's no longer in the document.
It goes missing.
And, it goes missing. And over and above that, if these people realize that there's some investigation that is being done in terms of the tender documents that they have completed, you'd find that the file just disappears.
The whole thing.
The whole file disappears, and then you would not necessarily go and find out who was corrupt.
Yes.
Whereas right now, all the documents that have been submitted, they will stay in the system, for as long
They
as
have
we want.
digital markers.
Yes, and when you want to go and award, somebody comes and give you the recommendation report that they want to award to this specific service provider, you go back into the system, you check to verify that the prices that, they are indicating on the TR report, they are similar to the prices that have been submitted. Whereas, in the past, it was difficult for you to be able to do that because you have to go through reams and reams of paper.
Yes.
Whereas right now, you just go there and click and you know which, service provider you're looking for.
100%.
And over and above that, this helps us with the Auditor General South Africa when they do their audit, because they don't have to go there and start to rely on the human beings to go and collect the tender documents. So the issue of limitation of scope in terms of, the Auditor General South Africa is a thing of the past because all the documents are there, and once post-award, we need to make sure that each and every document that we have is uploaded on the SAP CLM, Contract Life Cycle Management System. So right now, we are getting to the point where we are digitizing procurement. But, is this good enough? The answer is absolutely no, because we still have human intervention.
We want key points.
Yeah, we want to get to a point where we get all our RFPs loaded electronically, and then over and above that, all the stuff that are standard. If you are going to buy a generator, let's say, for example, a 5 kilowatt generator, you need to be able to go and award and do the adjudication electronically without a person intervening in the process. So that on its own, it would help us to get to a point where human beings will only be there to make sure that at least they create a purchase order. And even the purchase order, the new process that we are running at the moment, we are in the process of finalizing the business requirement specification so that at least we can issue out the tender to the market. The tender should be issued out in the next 2 to 3 weeks, where we are going to automate the back-to-back procurement process, starting from demand management up to the time when we do contract management.
Wow. So let's talk about the role that SMMEs play, but also the reason why a lot of them maybe are disqualified in their RFPs, and how that plays out, and what are those common sort of issues that cause disqualification, whether human-made disqualifications or technical disqualifications or just them not being good enough.
Yeah, look, normally when you do the tender, you give each and every person an equal platform to succeed. So with small, medium enterprises, most of the time you'd find that, look, the tender documents that we have, they are voluminous. You go through this document, through that document, and most of the time, if you don't have sufficient resources, you would find it very difficult for you to be able to respond to the tender. So the systems that we are putting in place at the moment, we are reducing. We've got, as a starting point, we've got a supply chain management policy, a new supply chain management policy that is quite, user-friendly from the point of view that it allows each and every person to bid. And over and above that, we have an opportunity via our Transnet preferential procurement policy, where we can only say that this tender is only available for small, medium enterprises, and then they compete amongst each other. And once they do that, the chances for them to succeed, they become greater. However, currently, the challenge that they have is the fact that in most of them, they will tell you that we do not necessarily have enough data for us to submit our document timeously. And despite the fact that we have this, platform, the e-tender, submission platform, at some stage we were closing our tenders mainly during the day. And the small, medium enterprises will indicate to us that, look, some of them, they don't have data. The issue of digital divide is still a matter that we need to deal with as an organization. And we have got plans to get to a position where small, medium enterprises, when they get into our website, they should be able to upload the documents without getting worried about whether they've got data or not. So this is part of, some of the, forward thinking that we need to
making
put in
it
place.
Zero rated.
Yes, definitely. So that at least when they go and bid, each and every person is given the equal opportunity. You don't have to worry about the fact that maybe you need to close your tender at 2 o'clock in the morning so that you can use the so-called midnight owl, data platform that you that small, medium enterprises would have. So, going forward, really, part of what we are looking for is to make sure that at least we minimize human intervention in terms of the processes of procurement. And up to the point that when we advertise the tenders, we would need to get to a position where our suppliers that have registered within our environment, they should be able to get, a notification that there's a tender that is
Here's a new one,
exactly, so that people can get to see the tender
transparency,
exactly, and see the tender documents timeously. Because the biggest challenge that we have at the moment, you get to a point where you advertise the tender, and 3 days before the tender closes, somebody picks it up, and because they are not ready, they request an extension.
Yes.
And from time to time, we are allowed to give the extension. But if you don't give extension, you get to a position
friction.
Where exactly the issue of fairness. How fair was your process?
Yes.
So for us, we need to make sure that each and every person that is registered within our system, they should be able to see that, look, there's a new tender that has been published now. So, and that would help us a lot in terms of getting to a position where we don't extend any any closing date of our tenders. If the tender was destined to be opened for 14 days, it must open for 14 days. Day number 14, it must close, and carry on with the adjudication.
I'm feeling very optimistic. I'm feeling very optimistic because I think for a lot of people in South Africa, it's always felt it's that association with procurement and tenders, with corruption, and the digitization is going to sort out and hopefully root out a lot of the 80%. The other 20% has got to be people doing better for themselves. I want to now look into how we make business easier from a procurement perspective, and also how, as a young person who's looking to do business with Transnet, where do you start?
Yeah, look, as a young, as a young person, if you want to get into business, within Transnet, I would say that the starting point would be you need to make sure that at least all the other stuff in terms of your admin, you've got the right CK document, that your company that is incorporated, and you obviously have got all the documentation. The most important part, is to understand what you're good at.
Yes.
That is a starting point, because it's of no use for you to go there and try to respond to tenders for construction services when you don't know how to do construction. So get to a position where you look at the areas where
most capable.
Where you are most capable. And the other issue again, look at the tenders in terms of the requirements, because now we are in a position where we can say that, look, in terms of our Transnet preferential procurement policy, there are certain tenders that are exclusively set aside for small, medium enterprises. Even in terms of the requirements, you would see that we need companies that are level 3, level 1 and level 2 up to level 4. And then, over and above that, we obviously look at specific, people that are coming from a specific area. Let's say, for example, we are here in Cape Town, and then if you issue out the RFP in Saldanha, you don't want people from Cape Town to participate, because
I understand.
Exclusively you want people from Saldanha to compete with each other. So, and over and above that, one of the most important elements is to make sure that at least we go to look at bigger companies. There are bigger companies now that are working with us to, in terms of developing small, medium enterprises. And if you are really having a passion in terms of technology, the relationship that we have between ourselves, NACAM, as well as National Empowerment Fund, would obviously provide a lot more opportunities. But my viewpoint is that you need to start in the area where you are very
most competitive.
Yes.
And now in closing, and I mean, you've given us so much knowledge, but so much, I say perspective. As somebody who runs procurement within this behemoth that is Transnet. In closing, what does a reinvented Transnet look like to you?
Well, look, maybe the reinvented Transnet procurement function.
Yes.
It's a function where it's going to be lean, and it's going to be, lean to a point that, look, at the moment, I think we should have across the rest of the organization, we should have around about 1,200 people working in supply chain management. I believe that, once we get to the ideal procurement function, we should be able to run, this, function with around about, half or less than half of, the staff that we have at the moment. meaning that look, a lot of things would happen, automatically and digitally, and we want to get to a position where the human intervention, in terms of the process, it's as minimal as possible. So we need to make sure that at least we issue out our RFPs electronically. When the contract comes to expire, you need to get a notification that your contract is going to expire. Do you want to issue out the new RFP? And then you just press the button, and then you get your specs sorted out, the templates being in place, and then you issue out your RFP. And when you issue out your RFP that way, you're only focusing on people that are part of the process, that know what they're doing.
Yes.
And one of the things that we're trying to do as well is to make sure that, to reduce the volume of submission documents that are required, we are going to put in information like your CK document, the information like your BEE
the stock
certificate,
standards,
SBD. For SBD4 form, we need to make sure that at least we put that in the system. But the onus will be on the supplier to make sure that annually, when their BE certificate expires, they go and upload a new one. So that at least whenever they respond to our tenders, half of the documents that we need them to be submitted are already with us.
Yes.
So it will make life a bit easier. And over and above that, we have introduced the bid specification committees, and those bid specification committees are going to allow us to make sure that the specs that we have, they are not designed to suit a specific service provider. They are as generic as possible. So for me, really, I'm looking forward to this, to make sure that at least at some stage, we will be able to go there and deal with what we call strategic work as supply chain management. Look at how do we best support small, medium enterprises so that they can grow and become bigger organizations. Right now, day in, day out, between myself and my chief procurement officer from all the ODs, we spend time doing, administrative work that is not adding much value in the long run in terms of the work that we expected to do as procurement. So, if we get to that point, we need to lift the game and professionalize the function to a level that each and every one of us, when we are getting to the OD and providing support, we need to be a partner, that is trusted, a partner that is seen to be adding value. Currently, when you look at the ODs, they look at us as people that are complying, them out of business, to a point that we basically focus
over
on
legislation.
Exactly, we are focusing a lot on compliance, but if the compliance that we need is built into the system, then you don't have a problem.
Then it's just people dealing with people.
Definitely.
Mr. Ruletsani Nemukula, the group chief procurement officer for Transnet, I want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for your expertise. I want to thank you for the knowledge that you've bestowed on us, and also the understanding of where the business is going, what the challenges were, and what you're doing from now moving forward, and what the future would look like. The future of digitization in procurement is what we're speaking about. And we're speaking about simplifying the way that procurement works, simplifying the processes within procurement, and increasing the supply chain stability. Thank you for your time. We are live, or we were live at the SAPICS conference in Cape Town, and we were speaking about how do we move the forward thinking within supply chain and procurement. And I just want to thank you for your time, Mr. Vuletsani, and I hope that the rest of the conference is just as fruitful as this conversation was with, and I thank you for your time. Thank you.